I'm Krista, I'm an addict.
I'm Gracie and I'm not, and today we have the pleasure of having Addie and Gracie on here. So I'll let y'all take the floor for a second and kind of explain what you're here for today.
So we are here because both of our moms are recovering addicts and they want us to do this because most people see their side and not our side. So when you have a parent in addiction, you're really just seeing their side, and there's never a time where we're really in the recovery mess and you're seeing how it's affected us.
Yeah, we're really grateful to have you guys. We need that family perspective, and I think y'all have really good insight that you'll be able to share today.
Okay, so we have just a couple questions that we wrote down that just felt like important things to ask y'all from your perspective. Like, if you had the chance to like speak to your childhood self right now, like what is like one piece of advice that you would give that little girl?
You can go. This is you.
Stay a child for as long as you can.
Okay.
Yeah, both grew up really quick, especially because like transitioning from like it always being me and my mom and like seeing my dad like on the weekends and stuff. He's always been a big part of my life, but then transitioning to only being my dad, it's definitely something that you've got to grow up. Like it's time to you realize a lot of stuff once you go from one household to another.
Yeah.
And I saw like how different my life was from like when I was living with my mom, and then when I moved in with my dad. It's a big shocker when you see what you're actually going through instead of just living in it. So to just stay a kid, because I grew up quick.
Mm-hmm. And like when you have a parent that's an addict, sometimes you get put in situations where you have to grow up way too fast. And you have to go through things that like kids should not have to go through. So just try to stay a kid as long as you can.
So how, like, this is a very broad question, but how did you get through that? Did you all have like, Addie, I heard you say you had your dad, but like who were the people that helped you transition and process, or did you even have anybody there to help process like those feelings?
I have like my mom's sister, which is my aunt, and she realized like what was going on more because like she was living it with me. Like my dad and mom weren't together, so he didn't necessarily have to live it. My aunt was living it, seeing my mom in the madness, whatever, going through it. So she saw the side of me that maybe my dad didn't see or like understand, because he could only do so much, because me and my mom were best friends. So my aunt understood it a little more because that's also her best friend. So it was
Do you feel like your support system understood, or do you think there's things they could have done better if they would have known how to handle it differently?
I kept it a secret for a really long time. I didn't want to tell my dad. Like I knew what was going on, not fully, but like I'm a smart kid. I knew what was going on a little bit. So I wish I would have spoke up sooner than I did, because I think I could have definitely gotten some more help. And I was really emotionally unavailable. Like I just checked out. But now it was just like, oh well, what can I do now? And that was from when I was 12 till I was 18, and I'm only 19, so those 6 years were rough because it was just, I had people around me that understood and loved and cared for me, but in my head, no one cared for me or understood like I wanted them to, even though they cared for me more than anybody else and loved me more than anybody else. At the end of the day, I needed my mom because she would have understood what was going on.
Gracie, what about you? Can you like identify like supports that you had through that time?
So I had people, but I moved around like a whole lot, so I never really felt like I had really anybody to go to. But people always said that like they were there, but I just never really felt like I could go to anybody.
So how has that affected you? Like now you're 17, right?
I'm 16.
16. How has that affected you as a 16-year-old with like relationships and abandonment? I'm sure have you heard that word before?
Yeah, yeah. attachment issues, get attached really easy. It's hard to make friends, like, because communication.
I think we're
Like,
so much more mature
yeah.
than like
Yeah.
my friends aren't my
Yeah.
age, like either my friends are younger than me because like I still see myself at that age and like wanting to be that person for somebody at my age, or my friends are like 50-year-old women because I feel like I can
Yeah, I
be
feel
friends with
like-
them easier than girls my
Yeah.
age because I'm such on a different level
Yeah, that's how I am.
in my
Yeah,
head,
for sure.
living what I'm living or lived.
I think Gracie can relate to both. We've always said like Gracie had an old soul, but it was because she had to grow up so fast and like saw things that a normal child didn't have to see with my addiction. So can y'all relate to that? Yeah. So were y'all able to like receive therapy as kids, or like is that something you wish you could have been able to take part of?
I went to counseling when I was like 10. I did do that, but I didn't like it when I went, so I never went back.
Yeah.
I never did. I wish I would have now, because now like there's definitely unhealthy ways of coping, like keeping everything inside, pushing
Yeah.
others away, yada yada yada. So I wish I went to therapy for that stuff. But
yeah, like now looking back, I wish I would have stayed doing it.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
You guys already kind of touched on this, but do you feel like, because I always felt like as a child, because you did grow up quickly and like having to make friends that nobody ever understood, it was never, you just kind of always feel out of place with the people you're around.
Yes, always. Or like someone's always like, they're not really my friend.
Yeah.
Like you can be my best friend in the world, but I'm like, you're not. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna leave. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna actually be my friend. And that's
Yeah.
something I struggle with everyone. Like I
too.
feel like no matter how close we are, like, are you actually my friend?
Yeah, like do you actually
Yeah.
Like
The trust issues.
yes.
Hearing them talk is like listening to you when you were that age.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking back at like me and Gracie's story, like things that we've talked about and since I've been in recovery, and like she can identify like instances or different things where she was like, oh, you definitely had a substance problem, like I could tell. Looking back, I can tell that you were on drugs, you were using in that moment. Do y'all have specific moments where you were like now that you're know a little bit more about it, where you're like, yep, they were definitely high?
Oh,
Yes.
Do y'all want to
There's,
share on that?
Yeah.
Well, like finding stuff as a kid, I was a nosy kid. I wanted to know everything, what everybody was doing, and especially like finding things and like hearing their excuses and stuff. And I look at that like being 11 and 12, like that was such a whack excuse. Like that was awful,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. And I don't even think they realized that like we saw that, like, because they're so out of their mind, like they don't realize, yeah, they did find this and they did find that and they saw this and yada yada yada. Which I've never saw my mom do drugs, but I saw my mom high, and I saw the things that my mom uses to get high and so on.
So with me, my mom, she's only like 3 months sober. So here recently, even I just noticed, I was like, yeah. She even told me one day, she was like, one day I knew you knew, and I was like, yeah, girl, I knew.
Because you still have those like moments where you're like, oh my gosh, because
Yeah.
if you know my mom is really high strung, everywhere, loud, moves 1,000 miles per second. And I think everybody thought, well, when she got clean, she wouldn't be like that. No, it's probably worse.
Yeah.
Like she is on the ball.
Yeah,
So I think everybody looks at her and was like, oh my God, like is she always like this? And I'm sure some people look at that as like she's probably out of her mind, but really it's just her. So you've got to like know.
Yeah.
And
like you can definitely tell.
Yeah, you can tell my mom's high. She's emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
What were y'all's mom's drug of choice? Do y'all know that? Meth, both of them? Okay.
And I think pain pills.
Yeah,
I'm not
pain pills.
1,000% sure,
Meth and pain pills.
but I'm pretty sure.
So now that both of y'all's moms are in recovery, because I mean, obviously, everybody on the outside world who doesn't understand addiction thinks, oh, recovery, like everything's great. How do you guys deal with that now? Because I mean, Chris has been sober for 3 years, and at times you still get those inkling feelings, or like not even inkling, but like the worry will always, it never leaves.
Like if my mom doesn't answer on the first ring, and I mean the first ring, I'm calling everybody in the family. I'm calling everybody. If she misses one phone call, like I'm freaking out. Like what is she doing? Why is she not answering my phone call? I should be her main priority. And that's one thing I've had to work on is flipping out on her. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And she's just at home asleep.
My mom, she went through the program. She was in it for 11 months, and then she got out for like 2 weeks, and then she relapsed. So I'm always like, girl, where are you at? What are you doing? Who are you
Checking
with?
that life 360.
Yeah, checking her location.
Always.
What are you doing?
Who are you with? Who's that talking in the background?
Yeah. Are you okay?
Why are you
When are
acting
you
like
coming
that?
home?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you feel like as a child sometimes you've had to be the parent instead of being the child?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
especially when, if you know me, I have a little brother, and that was, my mom was in no shape or form to be having a newborn baby. And when I lost my brother, it wasn't like losing a brother. And I think some people are kind of like, oh, well, like it's just your brother. He was just 2 months old. But you form that nurturing motherly connection when you are always with a child and having to change its diapers and give its baths and put it to sleep, even if it was for just 2 months. You form that connection, and it's not like losing a brother. It's like losing a child, and
Yeah.
it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gracie, you said your mom was in a program. Before we got on here, Gracie and I were talking about that. Like, can you remember the first, like, did your family ever give you like an excuse, or did you know like my mom's in rehab, or did they tell you, like, did they make up a story? Not make up a story, but say she's away or at a job or work or.
My mom, she's been to rehab. She's been on rehab since I was like 7, and I've always known. Like I've always known the deal.
Yeah,
I've always known what was up.
My dad never sugarcoated it for me, which I am thankful for, because my mom was gone like for 6 or 7 years. Like there was no seeing my mom.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 times
My
in
mom-
6 years. And I'm more thankful for that than seeing my mom every 3 months strung out, or not seeing her for a year and then here she is for 6 months just completely out of her mind. Like I'm glad that when she was gone, she was gone. And I'm not necessarily glad, but like I'm glad I didn't have to live through that for 6 or 7 more years. She just did her thing until she really did her thing and got clean. But it's hard because she missed out on those 6 or 7 years, and so did I. But I'm glad I didn't have to see what I would have saw.
Yeah. Gracie, was your experience different as far as like, that was absent, but was your mom?
So I didn't live with my mom for the first time until I was 7. And then when I was 7, she got clean and we moved to the warm center and we lived there for like a year. And then we moved and then she relapsed again. And then like ever since then, my life's been a little crazy.
Everywhere.
Yeah, ever since then. But my mom has 4 kids, and I'm the only one that lives up there. So I've been there through it all, seen it all, been with her through it all.
And like she
How does
really
that
has
affect?
mom.
Yeah.
How does that affect you? Like, you said, your siblings like not being there.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that I'm the one that went through it and not them. But like, I'll always wonder what it was like to have all them at the house with me, like, because we've never all lived together at the same time.
So tell us a little bit about that. How y'all's friendship developed. Like, I was talking to your mom, Addie, a little bit, and she kind of said that. Yeah.
I just care. And Grace is my beautiful client. So really, I just did her hair one day, and we have talked. This was probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That I did her hair because they just got their
Yeah,
apartment
we
back
just
here,
moved back to the
right next to my mom, and
one.
my mom became friends. So of course we're gonna be friends. And
Yeah.
I do her hair and her mom's hair, so we all come over here and have fun and
Mhm.
eat Taco Bell
Yep.
and do hair.
And podcasts now.
Now podcast, add that to the list.
Do you guys think that you can have a more open relationship with your moms now, or do you still feel like at times it's hard?
Well, my mom always said she wasn't my little friend, but she's my little friend.
Yeah, definitely. Me and my mom have
She's
the
my
best
best friend.
relationship now.
Like we have the best relationship. I talk to my mom
Like we're best
about
friends.
20 times a day. She calls me, and I do the same thing. But we missed out on dinner, so
Yeah,
we're
like this.
talking all the time, going out to eat whenever, hanging out here whenever, just doing whatever. Like I was sick in June, and I had to go to the hospital at like 1 a.m. and I live like an hour and a half away from my mom, and I called her. I was like, "You got to come to the hospital," and she got up at 1 a.m. and drove all the way there. And she's like, "I've been praying for this day. Like this is what I've been wanting to do, be a mom."
Yeah.
So
I don't really hold nothing against my mom because I know that she tries, and that's all that matters to me.
yeah, I don't.
What
really
is
have
it like
anything.
that? What does it feel like now that your mom can be there for those moments? Like, you know, that she can wake up at 1 a.m. and drive you to the hospital and, you know, just be there for you.
I love it. I want to do it every day.
What is something you could give advice to somebody to help another child of an addict?
Don't let any of your family members tell you that they're always going to be the same, because at the end of the day, they don't know that and you don't know that. And my mom has been an addict since she's in her 20s and she's 40 something now. And I've never seen her do as good as she is, even when she was clean, like when I was a child. Like she is on her stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn, like, hey, if it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better. And if it's not, that's not on you. And you've got to forgive.
Right. Like some people will change, some people won't. But
If you have the luckiness to be a part of somebody's life who changes, make it.
Yeah.
And even
So
if
you guys can. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
even if my mom does relapse in 5 years, I'll be so grateful for this time I had with her. You know,
me too.
not saying it's gonna happen because I don't think it really will. But again, with addiction, you never know.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I never get my hopes up, like ever.
But we have faith in Becky.
Yeah, we got
and
faith in
Andrea.
I don't ever get
They
my
got
hopes up.
this.
But they got this. I just don't get my hopes up because it's
But
always
she
been like
has
this.
seen it more than I have, because I did move an hour and a half away. I was separated from it and stuff like that, which our stories are a lot alike, but they're a lot different in ways. So it's probably a little bit harder for her to just forgive and forget than it is me.
Yeah.
And we still
I
hold
forgive
that.
her. I forgive her.
We
but
still
I don't
hold that
forget.
grudge. I mean, definitely, there's always going to be that little part of you that's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like I don't want to talk to her today, or I just wish she would leave me alone. But I don't want her to leave me alone again for 7 years. So
If you feel comfortable answering this, you can. But if not, that's okay too. Have either one of you found yourself in a situations where substances were like offered, and how were you able to like deal with that? Like, did your experiences turn you like completely away from it, or did you have a different experience?
my experience have turned me completely away from it. Henderson County and where I live is completely different. I live in the boonies. You know, you've got to really, like, if you do drugs, like, there's a certain place where you do drugs, I think, in my county. Like, I was never really around it. My dad doesn't do drugs or anything like that. He's the complete opposite of my mom. You wouldn't even think they would have had a kid together. They're so different. So I was completely just moved away from it. And I was really, my dad is a hovering parent. So, like, I didn't even have a phone. I was like in the 9th grade, like,
Oh my God.
which is my own mistake. Like,
I feel like seeing my mom do meth, like I've never like seen her do it, but like I've seen it. I know what it is, whatever. Like I would just never.
but my
I
dad
would
was
never
really
wanna do it.
on my case. Like, I really didn't start staying on with my friends. I was like in the 10th grade.
Do you think that
Yeah.
also makes it harder to find friends? Because I mean, obviously, like when you're in high school and like, you know,
Yes,
I
I'm
feel
so
like,
different than them. So different. Like
yeah,
they got to do all the fun stuff or whatever. Like if there was a basketball game, I had to leave at 9. Like I wasn't staying to the end of the basketball game. Like there was a football game, I had to stay at the football field. Like if I went anywhere outside of the football field, my butt would have been grounded for 4 freaking years. Like I couldn't do anything, which I'm really grateful for because I see some of the kids that I went to school with, and I'm just like praying for y'all.
yeah.
Gracie, what about you? What was your like?
So I feel like with me, I don't want to say that my mom didn't care because my mom cares, but she just like when she is on drugs, I'm not her main focus. So
Sure.
she doesn't really pay attention that much.
Well, this is still kind of fresh for you. I mean, your mom has, what'd you say, 4 months?
I think it's either 3 or 4.
Okay, so I mean that's a lot of new feelings, right? Like, are y'all still navigating, like, just like processing the relapse from before, or are you just able to like pick back up from where you left?
Well, during like those 3, I think it was like 2 months. We just got our apartment not that long ago. So it was like 2 months. The whole 11 months she was in rehab, I went to all the meetings with her. I seen her all the time, as much as I could. And so when she relapsed, I tried to just not be around her. And so she could realize like, no, I can't be doing that because it does hurt my feelings and it does
Yeah.
affect life. So I just tried to make her know that we can't be doing none of that, girl.
You do none of that. But at the outside looking in at them, they're gonna have a great relationship.
Yeah.
They do have a great
But like,
relationship.
yeah, we do. Like we had a good relationship before
And
that.
we're so much alike, and Becky and Andrea are so much alike.
Yeah.
So much alike. And we are so much alike. So like she can see my side of it. And like she can express it to my mom in a way that my mom will understand. And I can see her side and express it to her mom in a way that she can understand.
Sure.
Because sometimes like my mom doesn't get what I'm saying and Becky don't get what she's saying. But I can talk to Becky as a person looking in and she's gonna understand it, and the same for her and my mom.
Yeah. And I don't think that's off of addiction and recovery. I think that's just like a mom and daughter thing. I mean, like, you know,
They
like
just-
my
They
yeah.
don't hear somebody
Yeah.
else them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did either of you ever have to deal with your moms being incarcerated?
Yes. Like 30 times.
My mom was when I was like a little kid, but I don't remember it. That's more my dad.
How was that for you?
Well, I never talked to my mom in jail. I didn't start talking to my mom till she got into rehab, and I talked to her like once a month for 15 minutes. Like my mom was also in and out of jail until the year before rehab, and she did like a long stay. But then she was like arrested like 8 times during those.
My mom, she's been to rehab like 4 or 5 times. And 2 of them were for a long period of time, but the other times were just for like a couple months or weeks.
My mom
So
was in
how was
rehab
that
for
for
like,
you having to? Sorry, go ahead.
you go.
How was it like you having? Because I mean, I know like from my experience, especially like you living with your mom to go into all of a sudden like her being in rehab away and you don't have the ability just to talk to her when you want and she's not always there. You know, how was that
Yeah.
for you?
It's hard. But like I know that every time if she just stayed, the longer she stayed, the better it would get. And the more I would be able to talk to her. So I just held on every time.
It really does take time.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't get fixed in a day. Our relationship
Yeah.
will never be fixed in a day, and we have worked on it so much, and I don't think it could get any better. Like that is my,
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
my
I'm-
dad is my bestest friend, and my mom is my bestest friend too. But like, there's different levels to it. I don't know. Like every girl needs their dad, but every girl needs their mom too. My mom missed out on everything, prom, formals, you know, doing this and doing that in school. Like she didn't get to do all that with me. And I mean, it's nobody's fault but her own. but it's hard because, you want that.
Yeah.
When you went through all of those events, like the homecomings and proms, and like, how did that make you feel, like looking around and seeing your friends who has had their parents there, and like how did you feel during those moments?
It sucked.
Yeah.
Wish my
It
mom did come
sucks.
to prom. She did drive to Orangeville to see me and come see me at my last prom, and that was good. But all of my other events she missed. She didn't miss graduation though. She came in a disguise, so I wouldn't see her.
That's
My mom did
funny.
a disguise to my graduation, like a whole grandma outfit, grandma wig and everything. It's actually insane. Nobody knows that. Like, nobody. I didn't even know until after my graduation. I've really never told anybody besides like boyfriend. Like my dad's gonna find that out watching this. Sorry, Dad, please now you know. Because it was like a really special moment for me and my dad, and because my dad has been there all 19 years and she wasn't, and of course she wasn't going to miss that, but she necessarily couldn't be with my entire family and everything, so I told her she couldn't come, which she found a way to come, obviously. But I leave graduation and my aunt calls me and it's my mom in a wig and a grandma outfit and was there the whole time apparently, so
That's funny.
I was getting
That's
ready to
great.
ask you, was she not supposed to be there? No, I mean, you answered it, right? You said you asked her not to
I
come.
told her to come because that was like me and my dad's moment. But she
Sure.
didn't ruin that moment. Like, of course I wanted her there, but maybe not in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Like I wanted that to be a special moment, like with me and my dad, because my dad put me through high school and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, we did all that together, but she showed up and she made it worth it for sure.
Yeah.
And it's great to know now that she was there and got to see me because she wasn't missing it for a little.
That's super creative.
Yeah, she told my aunt, she was like, look, Adeline doesn't want me to come, so nobody's going to tell her I'm coming. You pick me up at 5 o'clock. I'm putting this wig on and this outfit on, and I'm going to be there, and she's never going to know.
Oh my gosh.
And she stood all the way like at the other side. Like there's a whole stadium, like football stadium. She didn't even stand in the football stadium. I make contact with my mom the whole night, looking at her the whole night. I'm like, why is this lady staring at me? Like, why will she not move? Like, who is this lady? And it's my mom in her little Karen wig and all.
All right, girls, y'all did so good.
Thank you guys so much. Y'all did great.
So
All right.
good. All right, bye.